Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast, Magic is Real. I'm Shannon, I'm your host. This is the podcast where we talk about all things metaphysical and spiritual with a focus on near death experiences, spiritually transformative experiences, healing, etc. And today I have with me Rebecca Kastl, who is a speaker, healer, and teacher who holds space for spiritual seekers and those on the healing path to return to their true selves and divine natures. She underwent a dramatically life changing, spiritually transformative experience in her 20s while working on healing from childhood trauma. Thank you so much for joining me, Rebecca. It is so wonderful and such an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I'm really honored to be here and just love all that you're doing. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Likewise. I'd love to hear about you. I'd love to hear about your background as it pertains to your spirituality, your spiritual awakening, etc. And just to get to know kind of what your life looked like before this awakening, what led to the awakening.
hmm
Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, great question. So I'm from New Orleans, which is kind of a mystical city, but I was really raised in a skeptical family. So my dad's an MD, PhD. He's a doctor with a PhD in biochemistry. My mom was a psychologist. So before my spiritual awakening, I had a very rational mindset. And really judgmental towards spirituality. So I'm sorry to everyone that I judged before. And I understand when people come, and ask me a lot of questions because I had the same questions before I had all these spiritual experiences or my STE happened. So, yeah, I had a trauma when I was 13. And that really led me to go, I can talk about it lightly now, but then it was really, really traumatic. I had PTSD, nightmares, anxiety, all the hallmarks of post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, and I went to therapy for a while, through high school, through college, and eventually I was told I was fine. And I was okay in the physical world. I was functional, but I knew that I wasn't okay. And that's really what started my spiritual seeking because I was like, I really want to heal all the way from this trauma. And I decided that when I was 23. And I just started to do anything that would help me feel my heart. And I just remember, I had to do things that I didn't believe in. Like I learned about healing. I didn't believe in energy, but I had blocked energy, even though I talked about this trauma forever. I had energy that I needed to clear. I started doing a lot of mind body practices, especially yoga, because this was late 90s, early 2000s, where there wasn't a lot of really good trauma stuff at the time, I don't think. So yoga was really helping me. And then during this time, so 23 and on, I had started writing my journal, Dear God, as part of my like seeking and healing journey. And I would just write Dear God and write about whatever was going on in my life. And that's a big word. I come from an interfaith Jewish and Christian family, and I let people, you do what you want with that. But, it's like I just was comfortable with that word, and I didn't think what I would write would change my life. But I ended up spontaneously devoting my life to God when I was writing in my journal while I was in graduate school. I ended up going to graduate school when I was 26 at Teachers College, Columbia University for speech pathology. And that's when I wrote this journal entry that started my 2 year long STE. So,
Thank you. That was very succinctly explained. So I can relate. Just coming from a more secular family and being eye rolly about spiritual stuff to a degree,
yeah,
not necessarily making fun or anything. And I don't, but just sort of thinking it was kind of what we call woo woo. And then cut to now where I'm doing this work along with you, and I'm a psychic medium.
yay,
So I think
amazing.
I really enjoy speaking with people who come from that logical background because I think it is important to have healthy skepticism. And I think it's almost more convincing when you go from how did we go from here to there. So I'd love to hear
Right, yeah.
about your spiritual awakening
Yeah.
experience, which I know is an ongoing process, but what was the catalyst?
Yeah, so it's definitely ongoing, but there was a finite 2 year period where a bunch of spiritual stuff happened. So what happened was this night in graduate school was January 2006, so just about 20 years ago. And believe me, I spent years deconstructing, years like deciding this was real. But I wrote in my journal this night, Dear God, I have decided to give my life to you and whatever that entails. I want to be guided by you, by the light. This is my pledge. I will work hard to follow this path and to bring it to fruition. Please help me do this. Please help me bring light to other people. Thank you. Amen. And I was crying. I was like crying, and this came out of nowhere. And then I have had to memorize what I wrote but I didn't mean to write that. And then I finished my journal entry about whatever was going on in my life. I was like, I live in Brooklyn. I'm in graduate school. And then that night when I was going to sleep, I saw a light come over my bed, and it was a light that just came from one end of the room to right over me, and it could see right into my heart. And I remember like feeling like it could see my soul. It was like, it wasn't like a light you turn on in the room. And I just tensed up and I said, Go away. I'm afraid. Go away. I'm afraid. And as I told it to go away, I started to feel this headache type of feeling, but it was love and peace. Like it just felt like tingling love and peace starting to spread through my head. And it got stronger and stronger. And I remember I looked at my boyfriend. He was asleep next to me. And I thought, should I wake him up and find out if he's having this headache? Like I had never had a spiritual experience in my life, anything like this. And then it got so strong that I just relaxed into this feeling. And I felt a voice come into my head that said, really lovingly and peacefully, you don't have to be afraid, but if you are, you can wear a hat. And it put a graduation hat into my mind's eye. And at the time, again, didn't know what was happening. And I just said right back to the voice, that's not a cute hat. Here's three other hats. And I just put like one hat, like three different other hats that I thought were cuter because I didn't know it was a spiritual experience. And don't do that if you have a spiritual experience because then the voice stopped. But this experience continued from that night for the next couple years. So I just like went to bed, and then I woke up the next morning thinking that was weird. Not sure what that was about. But a whole experience was starting because I was walking to class the next day and seeing beautiful white light pouring out of everyone I passed. Like everyone was an angel. And it wasn't just like light, it was like love too, because I was in love with, like, I loved everyone I saw. And I just remember it was almost like, whoa, what? Whoa, what? They're so beautiful. Like, and that lasted for the first couple days. And then that kind of calmed down, or at least maybe I got used to it. I don't know. And then all this stuff happened the first couple of weeks. Like then I started having psychic dreams those first couple weeks too. And again, my mom had been a psychologist, so we like analyzed our dreams. There was no talk of like your dreams giving you guidance or being psychic or being precognitive or prophetic, however you want to call it. But I would start to have dreams. I've had them ever since that come true, and they're small. Most of them are pretty small. They're like about my friends, something that's going to happen in my life. And like over the years, I've had a dream about a car accident before it happened. I've had a dream about carbon monoxide poisoning that I got and survived, a couple days before it happened, and just other things like that through the years. And that was something I remember getting used to being like, it was all so subconscious. I'm sure you understand having been through spiritual experiences. You're like, oh, like you're watching a dream unfold in your life and it's not scary. It's like, oh, okay. Like it feels almost like your soul remembers it.
Mhm.
So, but someone asked me once if I thought it was scary, and I feel like it's very comforting, honestly, to have those kind of dreams. So,
Yeah.
um, and so then a lot of other stuff happened, like a few different things. And, around that time, I started freaking out, thinking I was losing my mind. I got one of the things I did was I found a shaman in New York that I Googled, and I went to go see him. And I remember going to his office, and saying, I devoted my life to God. I think I'm schizophrenic. Do I have to drop out of grad school? Because like I didn't know what to do. And he was like, "Oh, it's okay. We're all schizophrenic. The whole world is a dream."
Oh, somebody who speaks our language. How
Yeah, I
lucky.
had never heard that before. At the time, I was like, "The whole world is a dream." That makes no sense. I don't even know what you're talking about. And now I'm like, "Yes, the whole world's a dream."
I
But
have
like
that
at the time,
tattooed on my arm, actually. It says life is but a dream right there.
oh, I love it because I don't always tell that part of the story, but I'm sure I was meant to because of
I
that. It's
think so
true.
too, yeah.
But at the time, I was like, okay, you're making no sense to me.
Okay, you're
But
schizophrenic, sir.
it's like we're all schizophrenic, but now obviously I think that. And it's,
Yeah.
there's varying levels. But so he helped me. I also, in my 20s, my mom remarried an indigenous man who came from a medicine tradition, who, he was very modest. He didn't really talk about his spiritual side, but as soon as my spiritual experience started, he started having dreams about me. and like telling me things and guiding me because of these dreams he was having. And I wasn't telling him about my spiritual experience. So that was really validating for me. Um, Other things happened, like I started to feel angels around me, and this was just consistent for those 2 years. And it really just felt like I had light beings around me. They never, like, I never heard the term angels during that time, but it was like I could just feel these loving presences that felt like they were made of light. And sometimes they would step forward and sometimes they would step back, but it would be like for guidance. They would, one time I was going to sign up to study abroad and I felt these two really tall angels on either shoulder. And I remember feeling them really tall. And it's funny because I didn't know anything about this, but I've heard since then a lot of other people describe angels as tall, which is cool. I also saw an alternate timeline of my life during those couple years, and I just think I was vibrating so high. I was able to like just be so tuned into a spiritual reality. But I was going to write a different book during this period, a different book. I was like, now I know I'm supposed to talk and share about this whole spiritual experience. That's to be like my whole life. I didn't really know that at the time. And I went to a coffee shop and I opened my computer and I was going to write about something else. And I saw and lived my entire life if I did that. Like, I like saw the book getting published, got bad reviews. I like saw and lived the house I was living in. I read the bad review. I just saw this life play out, but it was like I felt it and I lived it. It was really strong, really fast, 1 second. And then I just was like, okay, I guess I'm not going to do that. I just closed my computer and literally just went and got a pastry because, these things are happening. Like, I guess, I don't know. Um, I had other things happen that were pretty significant. Like I had a spontaneous life review. All of this stuff was in real time, like while I was living my life. I had hurt my sister's feelings by accident. And I didn't re by accident. I call myself the accidental mystic, but this really seemed like I dropped the ball on something that was important to her and I didn't realize it till we talked on the phone. And I just could feel all of her feelings in my body, like how much it had hurt her, how she was like, I felt her essence and her emotions about this situation. And it really took my breath away. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to ever hurt anyone again. I don't ever want to do that. And this was part of the beginning of me understanding how important it is to be kind and how sacred and precious all of life is. This was a huge part of my experience was understanding how beautiful humans are and how special we all are and treating each other with love. Um, so that happened. And then I overcame my nightmares. So you're a psychic medium. You might understand this, but my trauma was really intense. And it was, I, I had done so much therapy, so much healing, but I was still having these persistent nightmares of like shadowy beings that would circle me when I was in asleep, but I would be in sleep paralysis and I would be, awakened and I would just feel really afraid and I would feel these like shadowy beings around me. And, I have the background of psychology where I'm like, this was my trauma projected, but other people would say something totally different. And I think it's all very interesting. But during these 2 years, I was awakened in the middle of the night with this shadowy being circling me, and it was trying to poke my heart. Like they don't always do that, but this one was like trying to get into my heart. And I just looked right at it, and I realized I didn't have to be afraid anymore. And normally I would just be terrified of these dreams. And I just looked right at this shadowy thing, and I said, with so much calmness, so much peace, I was like, you can't hurt me. God lives in me and works through me. And I just said that so peacefully, and it went away, and these nightmares never came back. And it was a huge triumph for my life, having gone through all this trauma. And then I just, again, woke up the next morning and went to school because I was in school the whole time. So those are like some of the main things that happened. And then, but also I saw things like an aura around a tree before it died, like all these things where I was just starting to see the world as in a spiritual way. And I was going between, wow, this is very beautiful, or wow, I'm really losing my mind. But, I was tending towards the more it lasted, the more I was like, this is very beautiful. And I was sure, like at a soul level, after I was done learning whatever, all the stuff I was learning, my soul was getting cleaned out. It felt like I was releasing any other negative emotions that were stuck in me. I just felt so beautiful. And I was like, guess I'm going to leave. Like once I'm done learning all this stuff, I'll leave the planet. That's really what I thought. Like wasn't raised with some concepts of that kind of thing, but I was like, yeah, I'm going to be done here. It'll be so great once I learn all this stuff. That didn't happen. My experience, obviously, my experience ended with a dream. It was very, very bright. So this is probably the brightest dream I've ever had. And psychic or precognitive dreams are very bright, like there's a spotlight in them, as you know. So I was in my room in this dream and I was complaining about my life and talking to this person who was glowing. And and there was just so much light in my room. And he was listening to me with all this love. And I was just saying, like, life is hard. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing. And he was looking at me with just all this love. And it was just shining into my heart. And he was saying, life is amazing. You need to go have a good life, go have adventures. Like being alive is a gift. And as he said it, he was like so excited about life and how great life was. And just really just, it was a really profound experience. And I was like, whoa. I looked at him after like all this wisdom that, all these things are so quickly, but they feel so deep. And I said, what's your name and when am I going to meet you? Because I was sure at this time I was 28, like, and then I was single again at this time. And I was like, he's going to be my boyfriend. And I can't wait. I'm so glad he came to me in a dream to tell me that I'm going to meet him. He said, my name is Jonathan and you'll meet me when you finish swimming. And he was so kind, so loving. And then the dream shifted from me talking to him in my room with all this light to me being on a big ship at night and lowered down into the ocean alone. And I just had to start swimming out into the ocean. Um, and the dream ended. Like I woke up the next morning and it felt like all the light was gone. Like all the angels I'd felt that whole time, like all this connection, all this feeling of like I'm learning something cool and then I'll leave. Um, no, it was just over. And I had to decide what was real, what was fake, was I crazy, was I not? And that ended in 2008. And it's been basically since then, I finished graduate school around the same time and ended up moving back to Louisiana, living in a cabin in the woods for a couple of years. And the integration process was a whole nother story, but that's the main part of my experience.
Thank you for sharing. That's so interesting. I actually, well, I have several questions. I do want to talk about integration.
Hmm.
Um, First, I just wanted to ask about your book because you had said you started writing this book and then you were like, this isn't the right book.
Yeah.
So, how did you find the topic, your Angels book? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, the so that book really wrote itself because I do my messages. What I was shown in that timeline was that basically any public work that I do is meant to be around this experience. So I am working, eventually I will publish a memoir about my spiritual awakening. That's like a whole nother thing. This book was a very sweet, easy book to write because I post angel messages on my social media every day, which you've probably seen.
Yes.
Yeah. And so part of my integration process was tuning back into this vibration once I decided it was a real experience and I hadn't just lost it. And I feel the angels right there, and I just write the messages like it's like the vibration that becomes words, and then I write them down. And so that's the book. And I had a client tell me yesterday in a session that it helped her through her awakening when she thought she was going through a really dark place. The messages helped her. So it's really the vibration I think that I'm bringing through.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the book, Daily Moments with the Angels. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. That's beautiful. So, can you talk about what it is that you do for and with your clients? How do you work with your clients and what do you help them with?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. Because it's evolved over time, but now I feel like I'm really kind of honed in on exactly how to offer what I offer. So I offer sacred soul sessions, and this is basically tailored to each individual client and their soul. And what I do is we basically go into a space of light, like my spiritual experience, and then I will bring through healing messages, guidance from their team and from their soul, really, if they're feeling lost. So I work with people who are having spiritual awakenings or people who are going through illness, anxiety, healing. And, I used to do separate readings, separate healings, but all together I just combine it and it works with what the client needs. And it's really, really special. Big honor to offer those. So yeah, that's what I do now. And I do
Yes.
speech pathology half time too.
Yes, I'm so interested in that. But we'll talk about that after. But yeah, so when you do a session with your client, I'm assuming it's like what I do, which is I simply say a prayer. I intend for souls to step forward. I intend for whatever higher guides want to step forward and help us in our session to guide me to offer what the client needs today. So it might be a little bit of psychic, it might be a little bit, it's mostly mediumship, but is
Hmm.
how is it that you intentionally sort of tap in with these higher beings, and what kind of information do they relay to you?
Yeah, it's so interesting. That's such a good question because you're also an expert. I mean, you do this work, so you understand. Um, how I started is I do like a kind of probably longer light visualization than I think a lot of sessions, but I lead them through and myself through this light comes
Mm.
through our whole body, goes to the earth, comes back up. And then I say something along the lines of, the angels and guides are always around us. And when we get into alignment with this vibration of light, we can feel them more easily. And I just want them to have that. And people will cry, like just from this light visualization, they'll have tears just from that. And I do too, almost every time, because it's like realigning. And then I just invite in their team. And what it is it just starts with messages. And it usually starts with a couple things I can say to like verify that it's resonant for them.
Hmm.
And it's usually just about, they'll show me someone's carrying too many things, or they'll show me someone's overthinking and being hard on themselves, and they'll show me something like this. And it flows with like, I'll hear things and then I'll see images. And I don't always see exactly the different beings, but at the end of a session, I can ask them to go stand, because it all comes in, a lot of it's clairaudient. And then I'll say, okay, go stand behind the client and show me who you all are, you know?
Yeah.
So then I'll see like each one, and be able to, and I've had, I'm still so skeptical, like in so many ways, but I
Me
had,
too.
yeah, I'm like, okay, you guys
Yeah.
are real. What?
Yeah.
It's stuff like, I mean, I've just had interesting things happen, like where I'll just see certain angels, or I had a dragon come through and this, and I said, I see there's like a dragon by your right shoulder. And I think, who knows? And she says, oh yeah, that's my dragon. I talk to him all the time. He's always on my right side. Yes. So that
That's
happened
wild.
a month or two ago. Yeah. That was kind of cool. Um, so I'm very, whatever the client's language is, again, coming from an interfaith background, I love to hold space. And that's what my stepdad taught me. It's like you're there with the client in what makes sense for them. And so it's been really beautiful. I do have loved ones come in. Some people would like loved ones to come in. And so I'll do some of that work, but I always kind of say I'm not technically a medium, but I'll see what I can if you
Yeah.
want.
A
So,
lot of people come to me for psychic readings, and I have been like, wait, that's not what I do. And people don't often understand the difference between psychic, which is where I'm tapping into your energy or blending with your
yeah.
energy, versus
Hmm.
medium, where I'm blending with the soul of your loved one.
Hmm.
And yet, what they say is all mediums are psychic, not all psychics are mediums.
Mm.
I don't, I think with what I think you are a medium just because we all are, and you've had
Yeah.
that connection, but it just might not be something you either are drawn to, or you feel the most confident in, or
I
maybe
think that's what it is.
or you're just
Yeah.
not called to it because
Yeah.
you were meant to do a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I end up doing psychic readings because I know that I'm capable of it, and to my surprise, my clients have said that was spot on. It's
That's
just
so
that
cool.
I don't prefer it because in mediumship you can get that immediate validation. If I
Hmm.
say, "Oh, in 5 years you're going to do this," well, then I won't know for 5 years if I'm right. Whereas if I say, Great Aunt Nancy says you have a key to her house, and you say, yes, that's true, well, there it is. So I
That's
appreciate
cool.
that. And I want to know, once you kind of tap into the messages, like this is some block you have, for example,
Hmm.
how do you go about healing that? What's the healing component of what you
Yeah,
do?
it's beautiful. So, I did study energy healing, and I actually did study with Suzanne Giesemann. I had a dream to
I'm
study with her.
planning to do that too. Yes,
She's
because
amazing. So I was like reconnecting with my experience, and I prayed for guidance of who to study with. And I get dreams when I pray for guidance most of the time. But
yeah,
that night I had a dream I was in her class, and I was like a medium. But the way she taught really helped me reaccess my spiritual experience and like guide me towards the work I do. So I have been trained in it, but I'm not quite as confident because
yeah,
and plus my journey was healing from trauma, having a big spiritual experience. It wasn't necessarily I had a bunch of loved ones or understood necessarily what a lot of mediums have gone through. I don't know necessarily what you went through before you became a medium, but I do anyway. So when the healing comes through, the healing I say, like my stepdad taught me, it really comes from God, or it comes from that light love energy, however you conceptualize it. But it's almost like the healing is happening while we're talking. and people will be like, I feel so much better. And the healing's just flowing through. But if there's specific areas like of pain, blockages, I'll do some kind of distance energy or
Hmm.
energy work with that. Um, but I think it's so much bigger. I've had amazing things happen, and it is almost like for example, I do a monthly group and I do a live angel message. And while I was doing my angel message, one of the people in the group was like, my back was hurting. And as you were doing the angel message, I felt better. My back got better.
Wow.
So that's not me,
I know. I know.
But
It's
it's the
intention.
energy and it's like the belief,
Hmm.
like in the healing of their own ability to heal. So it's fascinating.
I
But
agree with you. I'm a Reiki master. I don't, but again, I don't have as much confidence in it. So I just don't practice it outside of doing it for friends or family or myself or my cat.
hmm
I
yeah,
believe in it, but I
yeah.
also don't see immediate results sometimes. So that's something I'm like, well, I can do this. I just, I'm just not totally confident enough to be like, this is a whole service that I'm providing. And it doesn't
Yeah, it's
fall
like
to me.
what, yeah, it's like what you're drawn to. I'm really, I studied Reiki too. I just
Hmm.
learned when I started telling my story, some people are really uncomfortable with that. But then once my spiritual experience, well, I lived in the South for a long time.
Yeah.
But once I think it started with Reiki and healing, but once I had my spiritual experience, I went to Ions last year and there was a medium in the room. We were doing work, like in the healing room, and she was really tired. And I was like, let me send you some energy. And I started sending her energy. She was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. You're healing with God energy. And I was like, I think something happened when my spiritual experience happened where whatever shifted to whatever. At the same time, it's a frequency. So
Absolutely. I think it's intention. It's kind
yeah.
of asking for you to be the vessel or the conduit or the
hmm
instigator of that. Um, can you talk about integration? Because a lot of people that have spiritual awakenings, whether it be a near-death experience or simply an out-of-body or an awakening, whatever, how do you come back to this 3D world and not be kind of living in the clouds all the time?
It's so hard. Thank you. That's such a good question. And it was so hard. First, I was like, um, really confused. And at the very beginning, right after it ended, I was able to keep life going. And then it ended. I felt like I got gut punched. And I remember my friends being like, you couldn't talk like for a month or something. I was just like, I don't know what happened. Then I moved back home. And again, I was able to basically keep my life going functionally. Like I finished grad school great. I went back and moved to Louisiana, eventually lived in the woods. I basically remember walking around the woods looking for where all the light went. I was like, maybe it's over here. Maybe it's over here. And also I would cry and be like, God, why would you leave me on this planet? Like, why? It just felt like, oh, I felt really abandoned and forgotten. And then after a few years of that, I was like, even with my stepdad, I was like, I'm crazy. I made all of that up. I'm ignoring every ounce of that experience because it was just, I was still here and I was like, that was fake. So I moved back to New Orleans. I had fun with my friends. I like ended up getting married, had a child. And then over the last few years, I started to think, hey, I don't think I made that up. I think it was real. I started reintegrating. I studied with a teacher who really helped me integrate, met other spiritual people, read near death. And I did read near death experiences for a while and be like, this is like what happened to me, but I didn't die. Anyway, that was my integration process. Studying with someone really helped. Finding a community really helped. And then I eventually knew I was supposed to talk about it, which is something my stepdad and the shaman both separately told me in my 20s during my STE, was that I would be a teacher, or that I would need to be strong. And like when the shaman said I would be a teacher, I was like, you're wrong. I'm not in grad school to be a teacher. Like you don't know what you're talking about. But now I'm doing this. Sorry. And so anyway, I eventually started sharing my story in 2023, and that was like, almost over 15 years after it ended. So
Wow. And today, how do you go through your life day to day? Obviously, a lot of what you do is spiritual based, so it's always on your mind. And you're involved in the community as I am with Ions. I
yay.
couldn't go last year, but I went the year before and will be going again and for those
Yay.
that may not know, that's the International Association for Near Death Studies. The conference is every year. It is so worth going to. You do not have to be a near death experiencer to go. I have been asked to do readings in the healing room, so
Oh,
I will be
yay.
there. So,
Okay, good. Me too.
oh, fantastic. So,
Yay.
yeah, we're gonna have so much fun. It's in Seattle, but I know obviously you. every day I go through the world understanding it from a spiritual perspective now, and I'm sure you do too. But just in your day to day life, as
Hmm.
a mother, as a friend, do
Yeah.
you kind of have you? It sounds like you've sort of stopped seeing everybody emanating light all the time or that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Have you sort of found the balance?
Yeah,
Yeah.
great question. I did. I have goosebumps with that question for some
Mm.
reason. It was, I do have to have a practice, and that's something that took me a long time to accept, but I need to have something every day that's focused where I really connect, and then I go out and live my life. So I wake up, I go into a place of meditation at night and the morning. Honestly, it's not like I'm meditating because I'm supposed to. I'm meditating because if I don't, I will slide way off my path and feel very overwhelmed and confused and unstable. So I do that. I connect back to the light. Doing the messages I do every day they help others, but they help me too to like be connected. And then, I have a life. I try to stay embodied. I try to exercise. Um, Eat well, but a lot of it is like feeling that love frequency and trying to feel it, but also not just exiting the world with it. So kind of that balance.
I feel that too because it can be really easy to spiritually bypass, especially because this world is, especially of late, extremely frightening. And I'm
Hmm.
sure, and I'm not even a parent, but I can, that things are pretty scary. It's very easy for me to just sort of spiritually bypass because otherwise I'm so sensitive that I
Yeah.
don't know that I can handle that kind of frequency, but I also want to be of the world, in the world, of the
Yeah.
world, because that's why we're here. Can you
I
speak to
know.
that?
Oh, it's so confusing and so hard because as someone who had a spiritual awakening, I saw love and light literally in everyone all the
Yeah.
time. And it was like, wait, but this is actually our reality at the spiritual level. But then, yeah, we're here in the 3D, in the physical world with many of us working things out. But I mean, I don't know. I think it comes with seeing love first,
Hmm.
um, in everyone. But my experience since it ended, I basically am in service all week because I work in the public schools with children like all the time. And that was not something I was planning to do before. I was doing a lot of research and like really more heady. And as my experience ended, I was like basically led to go work in like these kind of high needs, underserved communities ever since my experience. So
Hmm.
definitely not about checking out, but it is about seeing the love in everyone that's there. I think that's important. The bypassing thing is so interesting and I don't quite have a grasp on it. You don't want to just say it's all love and light, but at the core, we are. And that's what
Hmm.
healed me was knowing that love loved me and that I was love and I wasn't judged for my trauma, my shame and all of that. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's true that on one hand I'm not afraid anymore because I mean I do have concerns
Hmm.
and I ache for the people that are really in the terrifying,
It's scary.
inescapable.
Yeah, like you can't say to them the world is all love, just feel peace
No.
inside. When I write angel messages, I'm like I don't know, but no, I don't know.
No, I sit in a place of privilege. I live in Laurel Canyon in Los Angeles. I'm very sheltered from immediate danger. Um, but I constantly think of the people who are in the middle of it. However, I also know that life is a dream and that it isn't not real. It isn't that it doesn't matter. It isn't that we don't care. We so care. It is
Yeah.
also remembering that there is a reason why all of this is happening, which is a bigger conversation. I know if you want to speak to it, I don't know if you have a few minutes, but you don't have to. Um, I, I do truly believe that the more love we can vibrate rather than being in a state of fear
Hmm.
collectively, some of this
Yeah.
stuff can actually be healed, which
Yeah.
I know that sounds, I don't know. I don't want it to sound
No,
minimizing,
I
but
have
yeah,
major goosebumps when you say that, and it's
right.
so true. I had a dream about it last year that I keep talking about. It was just one collective dream, but it was like we're basically going through, I saw last April like a bunch of stuff that's coming for humanity, and we're seeing it now.
Yeah.
And it was like the way we could process through each event that was really traumatic was to love each other, hold hands across the planet, and just be really loving. And I just saw all of these people like the best way to deal with it was to be one and to be connected. And that seems so small, but a lot of these things that are playing out are based in economic inequality, greed, not seeing the human in another. And the more we see the human and like, live in a place of oneness. I mean, honestly, if you're looking for a resource, anyone listening, I love Neil Donald Walsh's fourth book, Awaken the Species, and it talks about how advanced societies live on, intergalactically, if you're into that stuff. It's like you see the oneness in everyone all the time. You share everything with everyone all the time. All these different things that it's like, yeah, if we want to live in a peaceful way where these things aren't happening, we need to really transform our consciousness. So it's not bypassing, but I mean, we do have to look at where we are before we get to where we want to go.
Yeah, I do have a strong belief, but a lot of it is because I've heard people like you and Betty
Yeah.
Godagno and all the near-death who you're friends with, and I am too. Just these people that have experienced out of body near death experiences have said this forever. And I see it happening that things have to get gnarly for us to wake up. I mean, at this point, no one can deny what's happening
Hmm.
anymore. There's
Hmm.
been a lot
Hmm.
of brushing things under the rug, hiding everything. And now it's like the earthworms are coming to the surface in a way where no sane person can say, no, 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 that's not happening. It's so,
Right.
and I do feel like it's on purpose because this
Yeah.
stuff is out of some kind of a sci-fi dystopian novel. It feels made up.
I know.
Conspiracy theorists were right all along, which is like,
It's so crazy. I
and so
know.
I'm like, oh, well, we have to reframe our entire way of thinking and moving through the world when we realize that all of this stuff we shoved away or said, oh, that's crazy, that could never happen, that's too extreme. It has happened, it is happening. And as a result, we're all kind of going, wait a minute, this is not the world we want to live in. This is not how we treat one another. And this system as it's been needs to go. We
Yeah.
already knew that. Like a lot of people felt that, but a lot of
We
people,
felt uncomfortable in the system, even if we were benefiting from it. I was
a million
uncomfortable in it.
percent.
I was traumatized. Many of us were traumatized within the system, but kept going. Now the system isn't going to work anymore.
I know. And that's a joyful thing. That's where the
Yeah.
excitement for me is coming in, is
Yeah.
watching it every day that I look. I'm like, oh my God, it's literally crumbling. Eve. So that's a whole other thing. But it is crumbling, and it might not, I don't know how long it'll really take, because now, of course, more is happening. But I do feel like, oh my God, it's coming to a head. It's coming to a head. It's coming to a head. And I really have to have faith and believe that this is because better world is coming. And I used to think that was like a religious platitude, but I actually now see it happening. Do you feel that way too?
I mean, that's what I
To
saw
some
in my
degree?
dream. I have goosebumps again. And I know it's
Yeah.
just one dream, but it was like shown, I was shown the whole globe and all of these things. And we were in a crosswalk and we had left the side of the street. We were going through these different events in the crosswalk and I was shown how to deal with each one of them. I could look inside the crosswalk and see the whole globe as a hologram, like 3D. It was really beautiful. At the end is a beautiful palace with golden rainbow light.
Yeah.
Like everything is beautiful. So like it's just like we're in the crosswalk. And it didn't say this will happen over I don't know how many years. But it was definitely like a transitional period. It was really interesting because that's not imagery I think of or use. So that dream was really profound for me. But I definitely think, and it's not just me, that's why I feel pretty good talking about this. It's like many of us have seen that. And if you haven't seen it spiritually, you've intuited it or you've had downloads about it in a way. So but every time we are more loving and we do, do right by each other, we go on a in a better timeline. Like a lot of disasters can be averted the more kind we are. And I don't know, but some things haven't happened the way that I've heard other people say, and that timelines shift every time we're kind and
I believe
loving.
it.
Yeah, so
Again, thank you so much. I would love just any final thoughts you have. A lot of times I'll just ask it like, if there's one thing you want people to know, what is that thing off the top of your head?
okay, Shannon is cool. No, sorry.
I like
This
that.
was
Cut. Thank you. Go
cut,
to
done.
prayer. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
was fun. I think you have guidance. That's one thing that I didn't believe in. My spiritual experience showed me like you have a spiritual connection. You are always connected. You can tap into it through your heart. That's what I would say. Don't ever, even though I have felt alone sometimes since my experience, I've been shown it's not really true. You have connection, you have support, spiritual support, and you have guidance. So tap into it.
Thank you. And just in case, I always do this in case someone's visually impaired, can you just say the name of your website
Oh
where we can
yeah.
find you?
Yeah, it's RebeccaKastl.com. So RebeccaKastl.com.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. You are such a beautiful person, and I'm
Oh,
so honored that you came to join me today. I know that
thank
this is going to
you.
mean a lot to a lot of people.
I hope so. Thanks so much for having me on. This
My
was really fun.
pleasure. It was really fun. Bye.
Bye.
Perfect. Thank you so much.